My dad's fist cracked against my jaw so hard I tasted blood, and while I was gasping in pain, my mom burst out laughing. Her exact words burned into me. "Now you'll learn to keep that filthy mouth shut." In that moment, I wasn't just broken physically. I was broken inside. Their daughter, Ada, was nothing more than a punching bag to them, and the worst part? They enjoyed every second of it. If you're watching this right now, don't forget to hit subscribe and share, because you're about to see how I turn this pain into the most shocking revenge my family never saw coming. I stood there trembling, my jaw aching, and my parents looked at me like I was trash. "You'll never be anything, Ada," Dad growled. Mom smirked, adding, "You're weak, just like always." But deep inside, a fire started burning. They thought their cruelty would silence me, but what they didn't know was that every insult, every slap, every cruel laugh was shaping me into something they'd regret. That night, while they drank and celebrated my humiliation, I hid in my room with my laptop, tears blurring my screen as I typed. I promised myself one thing. One day, I'd make them eat every single word. But what I didn't know then was that their betrayal would cut even deeper than a smashed jaw, and the way I'd rise from it would shock them in a way they'd never forget. The next morning, my face was swollen, but my parents didn't even look at me. They acted like nothing had happened. At breakfast, Dad casually said, "You better learn your place, Ada. Kids like you don't get anywhere in life." Mom chuckled, pouring her coffee. "Don't waste time dreaming. You'll just embarrass yourself like always." Their words carved into me deeper than the bruise on my jaw. They wanted me small, silent, and dependent. But in that silence, I was building something they couldn't even imagine. While they thought I was moping in my room, I spent nights learning, studying, and pushing myself in secret. I worked extra shifts at a diner, saved every tip, and hid the money where they'd never find it. By day, they mocked me for wasting time on the computer, and by night, I was teaching myself skills that would change my future forever. Each cruel laugh fueled me. Each insult made me hungrier. I wasn't just surviving, I was quietly building a new life brick by brick, but their cruelty didn't stop. One evening, I overheard them talking about me. Dad said, "She'll never move out. She'll be stuck here, probably begging us for scraps." Mom replied, "That's why we don't need to worry. Ada's too weak to stand on her own." I clenched my fists in the dark hallway, promising myself I'd prove them wrong. They thought they were locking me inside a cage, but all they were doing was sharpening the claws I'd one day use to tear it open. Months later, the diner manager noticed how fast I picked things up and offered me more shifts. That extra money? It went straight into my hidden savings. With every paycheck, I got closer to freedom. But just when I started to believe I might actually escape, my parents found my secret stash. I came home one night, exhausted, only to see my jar of savings spilled across the table. Mom held the money with a cruel smile. "So this is where your little tips went?" Dad sneered. "You think you're smart? This is our house, our money. Don't forget who feeds you." I felt the floor vanish beneath me. Everything I'd worked for, gone in minutes. But as my mom shoved the cash into her purse and laughed, something inside me hardened. They could steal my money, but they couldn't steal my determination. I swore that night I'd never let them control me again. What my parents didn't know was that I had one last secret they hadn't discovered yet, and when the time came, it would flip their world upside down. I started living like a ghost in my own house. My parents thought they had crushed me, but the truth was, I had already shifted my plan. The money they stole hurt, yes, but my real weapon wasn't the cash. It was the skills I'd been sharpening in silence. Every night after my diner shift, I locked my bedroom door, opened my laptop, and built something piece by piece. I studied coding, freelancing, small business tricks, anything that could turn into money without my parents' control. It wasn't easy. I failed countless times, cried myself to sleep, and woke up with swollen eyes. But I never stopped. Slowly, my small online gig started bringing in real cash. I didn't tell a soul. I created hidden accounts, used fake names, and moved my earnings far away from their reach. While they mocked me for being a nobody, I was secretly earning more in a week than they ever guessed. One night at dinner, Dad barked, "Ada, when are you going to get a real job? This family is tired of carrying dead weight." Mom smirked, sipping her wine. "Don't expect us to support you forever. You'll end up cleaning floors like a loser." I forced a small smile and nodded, hiding the truth. Because while they laughed at me over meatloaf, I had just signed a deal worth more than their combined salaries for a year. The contrast was delicious. During the day, they saw a girl with bruises, ragged clothes, and downcast eyes. But at night, I was Ada, the rising star my clients begged to work with. My double life was both my shield and my secret revenge. Then came the breaking point. My cousin announced her big engagement party, and my parents were ecstatic to show off the perfect family. But when they saw my name on the invitation list, their tone changed. "Don't embarrass us, Ada," Dad warned. "Keep your head down and don't talk about your little hobbies." Mom added coldly, "Just smile and stay quiet. You're not the type people want to hear from." I clenched my teeth but said nothing. They thought I'd walk into that party small and ashamed. But deep down, I knew. That night would be the first time I stepped into the light with everything I had hidden. And when the spotlight hit, it wouldn't just expose me, it would destroy the image my parents built for themselves, because what they didn't know was that I was about to walk into that room not as the broken girl they mocked, but as someone holding the power they secretly wished was theirs. The night of the engagement party, I stood outside the grand hall, my heart pounding. I wore a simple black dress I'd bought myself, nothing flashy, but it fit me perfectly. For the first time, I didn't feel like the broken girl my parents tried to paint me as. I felt powerful. Still, as I walked in, I could hear whispers. My relatives' eyes scanned me from head to toe, some smirking, some rolling their eyes. I caught one aunt mutter, "Oh, that's Ada." Poor thing, still dependent on her parents. My jaw tightened, but I kept walking. At our family's table, my dad leaned toward me and hissed, "Don't you dare speak tonight. Just sit, eat, and don't embarrass us." Mom nodded, her smile fake for the crowd, whispering, "Stay invisible, Ada. That's your best contribution." I clenched my fists under the table, forcing a smile. If only they knew the truth, that while they sat here looking down on me, I had quietly built something that gave me more control than all of them combined. As the party went on, the attention was on my cousin and her fiancé. Champagne glasses clinked, laughter filled the air, and I stayed silent, just like they wanted. Until my uncle, with his booming voice, decided to humiliate me. "Ada," he called across the table, "so what are you doing with your life these days? Still working that diner job?" The room went quiet, and all eyes turned to me. My parents smirked, waiting for me to stammer. Dad chuckled, adding, "She's wasting her time on that laptop of hers, pretending to be something she's not." Mom's laughter followed, sharp and cruel. Poor Ada, always chasing dreams but never catching them. The table erupted in chuckles and my face burned. For a moment, I almost shrank back into silence. Almost. But then, something in me snapped. I looked around the room, straightened my back, and said calmly, "Actually, I don't work at the diner anymore." The laughter paused. My aunt raised an eyebrow. "Oh? Then what do you do, dear?" I took a breath and let the words out, steady and sharp. "I own a business. And last year, it made more than this entire party cost." The silence was deafening. Glasses froze midair, Forks clinked against plates. My dad's smile vanished. "What nonsense are you talking about?" he barked. I pulled out my phone, tapped a few times, and projected the live stats of my earnings onto the screen at the front, numbers that made jaws drop. Tens of thousands flowing in monthly. Gasps rippled across the hall. My uncle's smirk disappeared. My mom's face went pale. And for the first time in my life, I watched my dad struggle for words. But this was just the beginning. Because while everyone sat stunned, they had no idea that what I revealed tonight was only a fraction of what I truly had. The silence in that hall was louder than any punch I'd ever taken. My dad's face turned red, my mom's jaw hung open, and the relatives who had just mocked me now stared like they were seeing a ghost. My cousin's fiancé even muttered under his breath, "Wait, she makes that much?" The balance of power shifted in seconds, and for once, I wasn't the one shrinking. I was the one holding every eye in the room. Dad tried to recover. He slammed his fist on the table and shouted, "You're lying! You've always been nothing. Don't think you can fool us with numbers on a screen." Mom jumped in, her voice shaking. "Ada, sit down before you embarrass us further." But their words had no weight anymore. They couldn't cage me with fear because I wasn't their broken little girl. I was the woman who had built her own empire in silence. I stood, holding the microphone, my hands steady. "All my life you told me I was worthless. You laughed when I cried, you stole my money, you smashed my jaw just to keep me silent. But guess what?" My voice echoed across the hall, eyes locked on me. "That silence is the reason I'm standing here today. While you wasted your energy tearing me down, I was busy building something you can never take from me. My independence." Gasps filled the room. My aunt whispered, "She's stronger than both of them combined." My uncle looked away, ashamed. And for the first time, I saw fear in my parents' eyes. Not fear of losing control of me, but fear of the truth being exposed in front of everyone. I took a deep breath and finished. "You wanted me small. Instead, you made me unstoppable. And from this day forward, I don't belong to your cruelty anymore. I belong to myself." Then, without another glance at them, I dropped the mic and walked out of that hall. The air outside felt different, lighter, freer. Behind me, the whispers grew into roars, but none of it mattered. I had turned my pain into power, my humiliation into triumph. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't just surviving, I was living, because the girl they thought they'd broken forever had risen higher than they could ever reach.